It's a pleasure to be here, and hello to everyone that is on this webinar. I'd like to essentially go through a presentation that we've put together for you around what it takes to be, I think, an outstanding student in terms of ready for the world of work. And I'm joined today by Richard Hewitt, who's Director of UK Higher Education at MC Burning Glass. And we'd love to hear from you in terms of your questions, which we will definitely leave time at the end of our session to come back and review with everybody. So first and foremost, why is edX leading this conversation? And if you've not heard of edX, edX was founded in 2012 from faculty at Harvard and MIT. And today we have over 160 partners, partners who provide content from the world of academia, but also from the world of industry and commerce with the likes of IBM, Google, Amazon Web Services, and many others. Since that time, we've got a number of innovative credentials that are available to a global learner audience, everything from micro bachelors to professional certificate programs, micro masters, as well as full master's degrees that are available on the edX program. And having said that, there's also a huge number of courses that are available on a no charge basis, over 3,000 courses actually. And what we found in terms of learners who have used the different credentials that we offer, over 91% have said that it's provided some level of career advancement when they've taken a MicroMasters program and been able to complete it. The last thing I'll talk about is we're also very lucky to have 40 million registered learners from 196 countries, as well as 2,000 universities and companies, as well as governments who utilize the edX platform. And this also provides us with a huge amount of input and feedback and data that we can analyze to make the learning experience on the platform that much richer. I'll let Richard introduce MC Burning Glass.
Thanks, Dale, and hello, everyone. So MC Burning Glass is a labour market data and economic consulting organisation. We work with governments, educational institutions, large corporates and staff companies all around the world. What we do is bring multiple data sets together and we connect them with coherent taxonomies and analytics, and that helps us and our partners discover and describe what's happening in our various labour markets. So essentially what we're doing is we're helping people make better decisions by creating a common framework for stakeholders that's evidence-based and led by data. The key to this, as you can see from the diagram on the slide, is skills. So people have them, educators teach and develop them, and employers need them. By understanding labour markets in terms of skills supply and skills demand, with reliable data to back up that understanding, then people, companies, educators, government can make better decisions for themselves and for the communities they serve. So that's what we're about.
Great. Super. Thank you very much, Richard. Now, in terms of what is going on in the higher education market, we've got a number of areas that we can explore. So first and foremost, what are the student trends and what are students telling us in terms of what's going on in higher education? A couple of points I'd like to highlight. First and foremost, 58% of students that we've surveyed have said that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted their decision to seek additional education. And this is for a variety of reasons. And the education is beyond what their major or their key area of topic for a degree might be, because people can see what the future of work essentially holds. I think that the second area is around the fact that a degree path is no longer as linear as it once used to be. We have learners who are working, learners who want to do the degree on a more of an elongated timeline, and learners who also want to pick up skills and insights and knowledge around topics which are perhaps peripheral, but they can see are going to be useful at some point in the future. So topics like AI, machine learning, have started to permeate almost all topic areas, irrespective of whether you are a computer sciences focused learner. And the last point was around students who want to take online courses, want to do so in perpetuity. So albeit that it's been a lifeline for many in terms of the pandemic, but I think the convenience, the ease, the ability to use different devices and to learn at your own speed has been a huge draw for students who want to take online courses. Similarly, we've got universities in terms of many of our members who are telling us what their experience has been about this. So what your peers are saying is, first and foremost, there's been a huge impact on being able to manage student registration and attrition. There's been a lot of students who have been thinking about investing their time and their money into a university education and taking it in a slightly different format. And of course, over the last 18 months, universities have had lots of challenges, and being online is something that can help alleviate that. Similarly, there's been a huge support for blended solutions. Both, I think, faculty, professional services, and of course, learners have been on a very fast journey to get their content online. And this support is only growing in terms of not only content online, but content provided in the right format, whether that's part of a degree, whether that's accredited or a professional certificate, or an open course that is considered to be a MOOC. We've also got 85% of our university partners saying that they need access to more online resources across disciplines. So we've got examples of students in law schools who want to take machine learning or understanding blockchain for the legal sector. So again, that is a great sign, and a great way to deliver is online, to make sure that those resources are available for students across all topic areas. And lastly, and perhaps not surprisingly, there is a huge gap between those young people and students who are taking upper secondary general education versus those who don't have that opportunity. So it's an approach that can be used to skill up, irrespective of whether you are currently taking higher education, and skill up in a way that suits the learner in the best possible way. In terms of what employers are telling us, this is something that Richard is, I think, best placed to speak about. So, Richard.
Thanks, Dill. And from a labour market data perspective, to understand what employers are talking about, what we like to do is aggregate as much data as we can from what employers are telling us, and then we look at that data through various lenses to generate insights. And so I thought it'd be helpful to show how we can examine labour market data through the skills lens to validate some of the assumptions that we make about skills, and also illustrate some of the common narratives around them. So EMSI, or the EMSI bit of EMSI Burning Glass, has traditionally classified skills as hard or common. Others use the terms hard and soft. Increasingly, we're using the terms technical, human, and hybrid. And even with those distinctions, skills are far more than maybe what we might think in terms of know-how or a particular ability. So when we're looking at the data, we're using the term to encompass skills, but also knowledge, attributes, behaviors, really any term that we can see from the data that we're aggregating that clearly has a value in the job market. So for example, we would class enthusiasm as a skill. It's a characteristic that employers value and seek. It shows up time and time again in job postings and CVs. Often for customer service or sales roles. So we count that as a skill after all. I mean, who wants to recruit a customer-facing misanthrope, you know? So these things are important. It's good to get our heads around what we're talking about here. Technical skills, if I go to those different classifications, technical skills are easy to define. They're usually taught in the classroom. Blockchain, as Dil just mentioned, but JavaScript, Excel, accounting, plumbing, cybersecurity, surgery. Think of the abilities to perform discrete tasks that require specialized domain knowledge. The idea of human skills, though, can be somewhat harder to grasp sometimes. They're also often underestimated or taken for granted. You know, they belong to the liberal arts or the arts and humanities. So communication, problem solving, self-discipline, sympathy, creativity, conflict resolution. All of these are life skills, but they're the kind of skills that give you a great experience at the Apple Store, that help you relax as you talk with the doctor, or that can even turn a conversation with a salesperson into, could you believe it, an enjoyable experience. And then we've got hybrid skills, and these are just what they sound like. So they're skills that straddle the fence. They blend both human and technical skills. So for example, operations, strategic planning, business acumen, and typically hybrid skills come under the common skills umbrella that MZ Burning Glass uses, along with soft or human skills. And that's because we see them right across the spectrum of occupations. We'll look to the next slide, please. So here we can look at, take a quick look at some data just to see how these definitions are borne out. So if we analyze, and here we're analyzing over 8 million UK job postings for high-skilled occupations, which were active between January 2019, January 2020. And what I've done is look into where these two technical skills, C++ and SQL, feature in terms of their occupational families. And what we can see on this slide is clear with both these skills that the bulk of online job postings that cite these skills are in the same family of jobs. Most jobs that need either of these skills are in the IT and telco professionals occupational group. SQL is used in a wider range of job roles than C++, but the job families are still really highly concentrated. And that's probably what you'd expect to see, right? But let's have a look at the other skill types. If we move to the next slide, we can look at human skills, and we'll look at a couple of these. So the first one we'll look at is communications. And what we can see is that the occupations that seek or value that skill are far more diffuse. And that implies that these skills are really transferable. They're sought in more varied occupational families than those technical skills. It's interesting if we look at where they're showing up, that in engineering professionals feature here. It's a bit of a cliche, perhaps, that engineers aren't known for being good communicators, but perhaps that's why communication skills are valued by employers when they're recruiting. It's something that employers feel they need to highlight. They're not necessarily going to list every single technical skill that's required in a job advertisement. They'll highlight the top or specialist ones, but then focus in on other aspects which are critical to success in those roles, and kind of highlight the employability aspect of the people applying for them. Then if we look at another, with the next slide, we have creativity. And creativity is similar, though the distribution is weighted differently. And if we can note that, unlike with communications, nursing and midwifery aren't featuring in a top profession seeking creativity. It's not necessarily a skill we might naturally associate with those roles. Hopefully midwives don't have to get too creative when they're delivering our babies. But unlike engineers and communications, perhaps it's also not a top priority relative to what we see in other occupations. We do see, though, jobs in design occupations, which we perhaps would expect. And then if we move from there to hybrid skills, and here we're looking at the distribution of operations as a skill across different occupations. And Operations itself, it's a broad term that refers to how things are run, organized, sustained. So operations can really apply to anything from warehouse, tech companies, hospitals, you name it. There's a big demand for organized people who can make sure everything runs smoothly. And ops is a good example of a hybrid skill because it combines those human traits with technical and vertical skills. So just to throw in another definition, think of vertical skills about if you let's take developing cooking as a hobby at home to being a professional chef. Your skills develop vertically within the same field. Here we can see that the skill is even less concentrated in particular job families than the human skills that we were looking at. As we can see, the greatest proportion of concentration still being under 10%. So quite a diffuse distribution there. And then if we look at another, and here with the next slide, we'll look at research. And this is a key hybrid skill, and it's that research being the systematic investigation into problems. And one of the world's biggest needs is for people who conduct research to better understand problems in order to work out improvements, solutions, and the best ways forward. And research can take many forms: medical research, market research, academic research, data research, online research, and so on. And here we can see a far greater weighting to those sales and marketing roles, no doubt due to postings citing the importance of market research. And this shows we can't assume, as we might have seen with the operations, that hybrid skills are the most transferable. So what we can take, so we can see that there are different distributions for different types of skills. And so what can we take away from that, apart from perhaps validating probably some existing preconceptions? And that's, first of all, that all kinds of skills are transferable to different work areas. And so while technical skills may be more highly focused in other areas, that doesn't mean they are distinct. And Dill mentioned before, I think blockchain being relevant in terms of legal type roles with those courses. So you can see there it can be different applications for different domain expertise, but also human and hybrid skills can be more transferable than others. And if you take that into the context of a degree, that becomes really useful. So imagine you're studying something like clinical psychology, and it might be that historically the largest group of graduates of that area will go on to be clinical psychologists. There may be plenty of graduates going into counseling or welfare roles that may not specifically be addressed by the course that they're on, even though they're significant groupings in terms of the outcomes. Now, if the educators know which skills are going to have the most impact on the employability of their students, and the students know that, then skills gaps and skills articulation gaps can then start to be addressed within programs. So I think once you start to build out this understanding of skills and where they show up, and combine that with what you know about your students and their destinations, you can really start to enrich the courses that you're delivering and deciding how you construct those courses and really benefit your students and the outcomes they have.
That's great. Thank you very much, Richard. I think one thing that just came to my mind is I've worked with higher education institutions who have often employer advisory boards or business advisory boards, and a lot of times they will talk about students lacking skills in certain areas, or graduate hires rather lacking in certain areas, but they've never gone into the level of detail and granularity that you've just illustrated there. So clearly, there is a demand for those skills, and of course, through edX for campus online, there is a supply. So I like the way that it's it's easier to bridge theory and practice in terms of being able to identify the right skill areas that are required, as well as the availability of those skills through transferable learning opportunities. Now, in terms of the power of online learning, I think it does a number of things. I think first and foremost, for any higher education institution, it allows you to share economy of courses. So courses developed by one higher education institution can be shared with peer institutions as well as the corporate and government learning world as well. Without a doubt, I think there's supplemental learning in skills that matter with real-time delivery, so you can switch it on and off as and when you need it, or as your own job role essentially changes. And there's real-world applications to a lot of this accumulated knowledge. So it's not just theory, but as I just said, it's being able to bridge it to practical utilization in the world of work. And as we've all known and heard a lot about over the last 18 months, the world of work has definitely changed and will continue to change going forward. And I think there's also a recognition of the different certificates and badges and credentials by employers. And it's not just higher education that is providing these. IBM, amongst many others, are also providing a certain level of expertise and learning that comes with an accredited badge that learners are illustrating on LinkedIn and beyond. And I think it also provides accessibility, opportunity, and employability for the learner. A lot of times, there's the argument that students already have enough in terms of their curriculum, so where does this fit in? And many higher education institutions I've worked with have asked and requested that their students get access to this type of learning and these types of skills once they've graduated. So it is at their fingertips and available through any device that they wish to utilize going forward. In terms of the impact, just two sectors of feedback here. On the left, we've got what career services, leadership, alumni relations, faculty, and employers have to say, and it's essentially a good news story in terms of blended learning is offering not only a selection of courses but also academic credit, through to it's a great way for alumni relations to connect with students who've been through that institution as graduates. And also, it's a great way to also provide learning and development opportunities for faculty and staff within the institution themselves. On the other side, we've got what students, recent grads, and lifelong learners have to say, which is all about improving your own chances by having the right skills at the right time for some of the very new career opportunities that are coming up. And even if you are studying something which is a topic area, or you've graduated in a topic area that might be of interest to you, or to perhaps more of a niche market in terms of employability, you can still pick up other skills which are in high demand and are in that list of roles that Richard and his team have looked at in terms of the 8 million job postings and beyond. The edX approach to providing a solution around this is edX Online Campus. That is currently in use with over 1,000 institutions around the world. It offers 1,300 plus, because we're adding all the time, courses across a wide variety of topic areas and different domain areas, if you like. And it's had over 715,000 enrollments. So it is seen as being something of value by institutions for the students, to make them just that much more employable, but also making sure that employers are getting the skills which are absolutely in demand in today and tomorrow. That's all that I and Richard wanted to comment on in terms of what's going on with the skills that employers are looking for, as well as an approach to find those skills. Richard, any closing comments from your perspective? I do like the level and depth and breadth of research that you guys are able to provide, and I think it's to the benefit of any higher education institute to be connected in some form or other with yourselves for those insights.
Yeah, thank you, Dil. I think the approach that I know you take but also other institutions across North America and the UK and Australia and other places take is really starting to understand provision at a really discrete skills level, and not taking things for granted, or understanding, well, this is pedagogically exactly what we need for this particular academic area, but also understanding that there are other things that people may develop through studying that alongside it that happen to be supported, but those have real value. And it's the combination of those and understanding it. And sometimes this kind of happens organically, but to what extent are people aware of these things? Can they talk about them? Are they surfacing them? You mentioned micro-credentialing and badging. All of these things are becoming more important. There's an awful lot of investment going on around the world, and academic research taking place to look at how everything fits together and the different kind of ecosystems of learning, hiring, credentialing, and it's quite an exciting space at the moment. And I think the better placed you are to interconnect with that whole ecosystem, and the better you articulate those aspects of your provision, the more opportunities you're going to have to support students, and students are going to have to support themselves in entering the labor market or moving around the labor market.
Great, super. Okay, well, with that, we'll close this session. Thank you, Richard. Thank you also, Times Higher Education, for the opportunity to share these insights.